Morning guys, Mike Frangias here. As some of you know, I shoot my little video blogs, vlogs, podcasts, whatever the kids are calling these things these days, to vent, to go over some issues that I know in my chosen profession of elevators, on the management side, on the business side, and basically the topic today that I want to go over, I think, is one of the most underrated parts of the elevator industry that I feel there's some problems with, that I've seen recently in some recent companies I worked for, how it's being handled, and some benefits that I think we're losing from utilizing this very key, important role in the elevator company. And that role that I feel is the heart of the company is the dispatcher. So this is gonna kind of be on the long end of the videos. This is like the third time I'm doing it because I'm very passionate about some of the stuff that I saw lately regarding the dispatcher, and some of the negatives and some of the positives that I feel we should get back to. So let's just jump right into it, really. So back in the day, let's start back in the day. Let's say the 80s. What would happen? So back in the day, the dispatcher would be in the office, man, woman, doesn't really matter. Phone would ring. They'd pick up the phone, say, good morning, John. How are you today? How was your weekend? It was good, thank you. The kids all right? Kids are all right. All right, I'm going to check into 123 Main Street. All right, John, you have a good day. I'll put you down 123 Main Street. I'll let you know if anything comes in, but your route's quiet now. Okay, no problem. Writes it down, logs them in. John, 123 Main Street, picks up the next call. I might be on call waiting, might be on line 2. Steve is checking in. He's over at the mod job at 523 River Street. Steve and his helper had a good weekend. They're checking in, and then you might get a call from good old Larry. He might have hit the bar too hard over the weekend. Larry's not coming in, or Larry might come in late. She writes it down. That's one aspect of her job. Maybe half an hour later, or maybe an hour later, she gets a call from a customer. Good morning, Steven. How are you today? Good. Your weekend was right? Yeah, it's very good. I just want to let you know I got this weird noise over at my building. It's not an emergency, but if you can send the route guy over, I think we're due for our maintenance anyway. Can you come take a look at it? I'm a little nervous because I'm having a gathering this afternoon or this evening, and I just want to make sure we're all set, and I don't want this noise scaring my clients. Okay, no problem. I'll make sure your mechanic gets over there. I'll talk to you later. Bye. So then the dispatcher hangs up the call, and then she calls up John, Joe, Larry, whoever the mechanic is, and say, hey, look, this guy over here, he just called. He said he has a noise complaint. You're free right now. Are you going to head over there now or what? Yeah, no, I'll head over there now. Okay. Check in with me when you're done with the job so I can let the client know, and I'll check you out. Okay, no problem. I'm checking into the building now. The tech goes over to the building. The dispatcher notes the call in the log, notes everything like that. The mechanic gets done with the job, calls back up the dispatcher to check out that building into the next one, and says, hey, I found a bad belt. The belt was frayed on the operator. It was making a clicking noise. I replaced the belt. It's not going to be any charge on this. It was part of maintenance, and I actually did the maintenance for the month, so you can cross that off the list. Okay, thanks. Where are you going now? I'm going to go over to 429 Church Street to do the maintenance over there. All right, good. I'll check in with you later. Bye. And he would go do his maintenance, and the dispatcher will actually now go another step, and she would go over to the sales department or the account department and say, hey, look, this call just came in over at this building. It's no charge, but the mechanic completed the maintenance for the month there, so you can go ahead and bill that out. So now they go ahead and bill that out. So I jumped around a little bit. Let me take it back, like I said, back to the 80s, where things were a little different, and how that procedure was slightly changed. So back in the 80s or 70s or prior to cell phones, really, the way it was done was the route mechanics would have the route list, and on their route list they would have maybe 1 or 2 jobs that they considered home base, where they can check into in the morning, check out of, leave their tools, eat lunch, whatever. So the mechanic, if he was starting at 7, would be at home base at like 6:45, 6:30, put his tools down, or pick up his tools. You might have left them there if he went home on the bus, drop off his coat, have his breakfast, leave his umbrella, whatever. And then he would go look for this magical thing called a landline phone. And he'd go up to the manager's office maybe and make a call, or perhaps the front desk, or if he was lucky enough, maybe even had one of these phones in his office or a cubby space where the elevators were. And we call up the office, similar to the, before how it was, check in, figure out if you had any calls in, and be on his day. The difference was, at that point, say a call came in, the dispatcher would go to another level where she had this device in front of her that looked very similar to a computer, but it was called a typewriter. And as the calls came in or a repair was done, she would type it out on this repair bill on carbon paper, have one copy for them, 1 copy for the customer, and 1 copy for the accountant. And then she would type it out, call, or maintenance was done, and she would physically take the copies, give them to each office, and throw in customer copy right in the mail. So he or she, whoever was, dispatcher at the time, was also going another level of documenting everything and physically putting all the bills in the mail and keeping track of that as well. So there was another aspect of her job back then. Computers came into place, so basically the reports were put into the computers as they were happening, and then they would go to whatever department, or they get printed out once a week or once a month, whatever the schedule was, and sent out the door to be mailed out. So I just wanted to add that little aspect, or how things were different back then, how things were, a couple of years ago, and where I'm going with this. So now, what I'm seeing in a couple of companies I visited, a couple of companies that I've been a part of, there's no longer that phone call between the mechanic and the dispatcher. That's gone. Now it's a matter of the dispatcher will come in the morning, she'll see the sheet from, the on-call company, whatever answering service company it is, would give a sheet Monday morning whenever we got back to the office, whatever calls over the weekend, and everything was pending. She would, type it out, or he would type it out. The dispatcher would type it out in an email or a text at mechanic and send it over. So, before I get into the problems with this, or some issues that I have with it, let's back up a little bit. I just want to make sure you noticed how valuable the dispatcher was 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 40 years ago. The dispatcher basically was your landline, or your anchor, or your tether, whatever you want to call it, between the company and all the employees, the field techs. She spoke to them, or he spoke to them daily. They knew, they had a relationship, so to speak. They knew the company was aware of family aspects of that employee, and the employee was aware of, that the company was there, and how the company operated, and that connection was invaluable. Take it to the second step. What else was the dispatcher doing at that point? Well, the dispatcher was also your communication and your face of your company when the clients called. The dispatcher knew how Joe was. They knew Bob's building. They knew Steve. And Steve and Bob and Joe were comfortable talking to the dispatcher, saying, hey, I got this problem, when the mechanic can come. And there was a relationship there. Very, very invaluable. And the third level that's kind of fluctuated a little bit is the relationship between the dispatcher and your billing. Whether back in the day they did the billing themselves, right from the typewriter to the mailbox, or whether now they're leaving a note in the computer, or they're walking over telling the accountant and salesperson, hey, this is done, you can go ahead and bill this, it's invaluable. So that dispatcher had a minimum of 3 different relationships or jobs that are invaluable to your company that they're at the forefront of. So with that knowledge of my perspective of them being so valuable, let's go back to, like I said, some of the stuff that I've been seeing. So now the dispatcher will text or email whatever mechanic, whatever calls are in, and that's the limitation. Let's start with all the problems of that. So now you have a mechanic that is basically not coming in at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. They're leaving their house around 7 or 8 or 9 and traveling to whatever job they feel that they should do, because they know all the jobs that need maintenance and they decide whatever one it is. Or the second part of that, they have to wait for the dispatcher to come in to sell up whatever they're doing and to get that email or text, which is well after 8 o'clock, 8:30, of what maintenances are open or any calls are open. So there's a big gap in that productivity. So now, like I said, they're no longer coming in on time because they don't know what to do. They're using that time of that gap of the dispatcher sending them this email or text or whatever for their traveling time. So that's going to run away like a freight train. So now they're going to start taking advantage of that. Oh, I got to drop the kid off. I got to do this. Let me get a haircut. And now that 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, that window gets pushed back as far as it can, because they see what's on the plate. Oh, I got 3 maintenances to do. All right, I'll bang them out. And no calls. All right, there's no rush for me to come in. And goes a step further where they're running in. Now they're rushing to get whatever done, and they're not doing it to what you would expect them to do it. So they're running into a building, signing a sheet, running out the door, not really doing anything now. And a lot of that is what I'm seeing happen. So now, why does that happen? Well, since you cut their interaction, their line, I gotta come up with the right word with it, but basically their only support to the company, once that is cut and now it's a cold email or a text, they're working as independent agents. They're working as independent mechanics or techs. They're their own elevator. They're Joe Elevator. They're Chris Elevator. They're whatever elevator, because they have no interaction anymore with the dispatcher or with the elevator company or anything like that. They're just someone getting a text or an email saying this is what's in, and at the end of the day, they'll text you back with what they did or didn't do. No interaction, no human touch. That human element is so valuable, that human connection is so valuable, that once you take it out of the equation, it's no longer, a nice independent company or even a private company. It's a business, and you're a number, and you check in like a punch card, and you check out with the punch card, and you do it on your phone. Very, very cold. Second aspect is, since the new dispatchers that I see coming in, it's no fault of theirs, but a lot of new dispatchers I see coming in, they don't even want to answer the phones. They hate answering the phones. They want to text and email as much as possible and throw the information out there. They don't care where it goes, what happens to it, and move on with whatever they're focused on, whatever gossip, whatever Netflix, whatever is on the radio, whatever. My point is, they're not invested in it. So that translates now to their interaction with the clients that call in. I've seen them actually request, a lot of companies now, I see them request, how about you email your call in? So now you have that separation. Again, that human separation is not only now with your employees, with your field techs, now you have it with your customers. And now it's another cold interaction where, John that used to call up Susie every morning and knew about Susie's kids, and Susie knew about John's kids and the family and everything that's going on with that human connection is gone. So now John has no loyalty. Now John doesn't care. John will go to another company down the block that's $1 cheaper because he no longer has that human connection that he used to have. Very, very serious thing. So I'm seeing a lot of that happen. And look, I'm all for technology. I'm seeing a lot of apps being used, Field Boss, CSS, Total Mobile, where the mechanics or field techs have an app and they see what calls are in, similar to the texting thing, or see their list of maintenances that weren't done, and they fill out the tickets, and they get sent to the dispatcher, and the dispatcher goes through them or sends them over to billing or whatever the process is. But once again, I'm for the technology, but I'm not for that human disconnect. That human disconnect is detrimental on so many levels. Like I just said, I see it being detrimental to your employees, where they no longer feel like they're part of a company, where now they're a number, kind of taking advantage of the situation. Not your own fault, it's just how they were trained and how they feel now. And then it extends into your clients. So my feeling is, without bringing back that human element to the situation, we're going to cause more problems down the line. Because I even bring in, I showed you how the mechanic might be taking advantage of the calls during the day in the morning and not coming in on time, or working on their own schedule, so to speak, where they're not going to give you 100%. Well, that also translates to the afternoon time, where they're leaving at 2 o'clock, whatever, to do whatever, and their heart isn't in to your company, and they feel they're doing nothing wrong because there's no interaction anymore between you and the company, so they don't know that they're doing wrong. You're not being told, hey, you're leaving kind of early today. They're not, it's no longer structured, it's no longer connected, is what I'm getting at. So now, at 2 o'clock, 2:30, maybe an early in some cases, that mechanic is already home. And at 3:30 or 4, whenever they're supposed to leave, all of a sudden they'll sit down and just send out a couple of emails over to the company, incomplete, not really anything of substance, saying they did this maintenance, and then this call might be a 3-word answer to what the call is. And then that gets translated into billing, and then a lot of billing accounts get rejected because the client doesn't know what this guy actually did, doesn't even know if the client is there. So this is like, a whole snowball effect from one thing to another that people don't realize. And it's a simple thing. It's that human connection. Now, had that person been checking in and checking out after every job, one major thing that I've always pushed in every company I work for is the safety aspect. You know where they are. You know that they're safe. They're talking to you. People argue, well, they have GPS now, and they know on the phones where they are. The GPS doesn't work all the time. And most of the GPS applications I saw aren't real time. I've seen guys leave their phones on the job. I've seen guys where the GPS never moves. So that's not accurate. And once again, back to the human element, I've had people in my career that were diabetic, and their attitude would change, and they'd start saying crazy stuff that you as a human would pick up on, but a computer or an app or a text isn't going to pick up on. So I've had a mechanic or two that were diabetic, really suffering, and I was able to get them help because my dispatcher picked up, hey, Kevin doesn't sound so good. I think he might be having an attack, and I'd be able to call in the supervisor or the building itself and say, hey, can you check on my guy? He doesn't sound right. He might be going through a diabetic episode. So I hate to keep on beating in my point of the human connection, of how valuable I feel it is, but I feel that a lot of companies are steering away from it, and it's detrimental to them, their clients, their employees, how the company runs. It's no longer a family or a team unit. It's more of a bunch of independent people working for you underneath their schedule, and you're not going to get the productivity of it, and it just keeps on snowballing down. So I'd love to know what you guys think. Maybe I'm wrong. A lot of times I am wrong, but I just want to hear what you guys' opinion is on that, and maybe you guys can see some of the points that I'm making. Sometimes I might exaggerate a little bit on an issue, but this one I feel is very important to the fact that a dispatcher, it takes a very, very special person to be a dispatcher. And I can say I don't fall into that category. I don't. You need someone, an extrovert, an outgoing person, dare I say even bubbly to a certain extent. Someone that really truly wants to know how this person's doing, that cares about it. Very, very special person that loves to answer that phone and talk to people and see how this one is or that one is. Don't get me wrong, everyone has a bad day, but that special person is invaluable to go that extra step and to alert this one about this, and alert that one about that. Let the supervisor know, that Steve has been sitting on a job all morning long and we haven't heard from Steve. Let's check on him to make sure he knows what he's doing, make sure he's not milking the job, or make sure that he's just safe. You need a human for that. And to go a step further, I also truly believe that there should be, if you're a big enough company that can afford it, you should not be paying for an answering service, because the answering service at the end of the day does more damage to your company than it would be to pay for someone to sit and answer that role. I feel that you should have, a dispatcher 24 hours, a couple different shifts, whatever it is. Maybe in the morning the shifts kind of overlap where the person's leaving and the new person's coming in, just to handle the initial call volume in the morning, with talking to all the field techs, not just the field techs, the foreman, the supervisor, everyone, talking to them, getting a game plan of knowing what's on, and that can translate to the management in the office, XYZ. Another key factor that I feel, if you have a dispatcher or a person sitting in your office 24 hours, well, that's just going to translate to better customer support. You're going to know the customers, you're going to know what the situation is, you're going to be in that shop to open it if a mechanic needs to pick up tools or parts rather, to go take care of a certain problem. With the answering service, if they can't get a hold of the technician, they just write down on the sheet, couldn't get a hold of the technician, couldn't get a hold of the supervisor. And the techs know to a certain extent that that it's an answering service. They don't put as much value into an answering service calling them with a call than they would if the actual company boss person dispatcher called them. Oh, it's my Saturday, I just had a barbecue, I'm not answering the phone. Or it's 10 o'clock at night, oh, I'm asleep. Those excuses don't translate 20 years ago with other companies when there was a dispatcher answering the phone. Now with this answering service, they blow them off so easily, it's killing the business. So on Monday morning when the report comes in that no one responded to your hospital or your college and there was an entrapment, well, by Monday afternoon you're going to get a cancellation letter, and a lot of companies just accept that when they should be fixing the problem. And the problem is, you need to pay for a dispatcher to be in your office, because that dispatcher would go a step further. They would call the next mechanic on the list. They call John down the block. They would call, hey, they're doing a mod close there, let me call the mod mechanic. They go through everyone on that roster up into the owner to make sure that building was covered, and rightly so. So like I said, your customers are going to get better service. Your techs are going to have a better opportunity to fix an elevator because the shop will be open for them. And there's so many positives. Yes, it costs a little bit more money, but not that much more money when you're paying thousands of dollars already to an answering service that's costing you money and clients at the end of the day. So that's just something else that if a company was big enough to do it, I feel if they're approaching 600 to 800 to 1,000 cars, you can afford it, and that's the time to implement multiple dispatchers. Let's say at 800 cars, let's make that the number. Anything smaller than that I can see. Maybe if you're busy on the weekend, you just have weekend coverage with the dispatcher. Maybe you're not busy enough during the week yet to cover it, but start putting that in your back pocket because it's invaluable to you and your business. I think I said as much as I can. on this topic. I hope you guys didn't get bored with it. I hope you get where I'm coming from in certain areas. And look, I'm just trying to make the industry a little bit better for everyone, for us management, for the union guys, for the non-union guys, for the customer, for everyone. And I hate to see it turn into a very cold industry where it's, you know, computerized and separated from person to person. I'd like to get back that human connection a little bit. All right, guys, leave me a comment below. I'll talk to you later. Bye.